Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Public Works Committee for September 18th. I'm going to call our meeting to order. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest today? Not seeing any. Councillor McAleer had to pass his regrets for today's meeting. We're going to look at minutes from September 4th. I need someone to move to adopt those minutes.
Oh, number 3, approval of agenda.
Oh, sorry, approval of our agenda.
I will add a couple of items under introduction of new business when we get to it.
Sure, when we get there, but do I have someone to move our agenda for today? Moved, seconded by Councillor Tweel. Adoption of our minutes from September 4th, moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor Tweel. Are there any business arising from those minutes?
Yes, just wanted to ask Scott about the CBCL tender, Scott, on the update of the West Royalty commercial area traffic study. I know it's just been passed. So do we have a timeline? Is it going to be 30 days, 60 days, Madam Chair, to the Chief Engineer?
Your Worship, I don't quite understand what you're asking, sorry.
So the tender for CBCL, I think is that going back to finance, or did we pass it?
Oh, yes, so it is going to finance for review, and then we'll go back to council with finance's recommendation.
Okay.
That's correct.
So this is a question I didn't ask at the last meeting. Do we have a timeline for them to complete the review? Did you get that from them as part of the cost, their proposed cost, if we go with CBCL?
I would have that information in there. They usually do kind of a 2-page summary, and that's usually include how long they anticipate it to take. I don't have that here in front of me, but I can definitely follow up with you on that.
Yeah, so you would have received that when you submitted the bid for the tender. So yeah, if you can just pass that on to us.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think we'll move right into reports and discussion. The first report is our street resurfacing package A. Staff is recommending the public tender for the submission of Island Construction in the amount of $899,897 be accepted. Scott, would you like to report on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, yes, we've issued Package C as directed by Council to keep it around $1 million. And so we put together a package where we thought would come in around that price tag, and we are very happy with the pricing, very competitive pricing, and I think we'll get a good amount of work done with this additional added budget. So we're happy with the bids. Island Construction has done a lot of work for us in the past, and we have no issues with recommending to award with them this tender.
I'll
Just,
move it.
yeah. You're going to move that?
I'm going to move it, yeah.
Oh, okay. No,
Second.
Seconded. Everybody's in favor.
Hey, no,
Onward
I just
and up.
have a
Oh,
question.
Resolution's on the floor. Do we have any questions on the resolution?
Yep. Madam Chair, through the chair to Scott. Scott, if I look at package A, you covered about, 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers? Or maybe I'm not wrong there, it's 100, yeah. This, and it was 14, 15 streets, 2, 4, yes, actually 17. So the package today is only covering a smaller area. You're looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And I know in the previous package, you did have the length and any ditch clearing that had to be done, completed. Is that part of the tender package that you put out? Did you indicate the length of paving that would be completed and what work had to be done on either side of the road, whether it was ditching and so forth?
Your Worship, so great question. So these streets, again, we tried to minimize the additional work we had to do outside street resurfacing. I do not recall any actual ditching being required as part of this work. It is, there might be a couple streets, and I'll have to confirm that, and I can get back to you on that one. There might be a couple that have some shoulder work that is included in this, and that just means putting maybe some millions along the road to bring the shoulder up level with the new surface of asphalt. But other than that, no, everything is either pulverized base seal or mill seal.
Yeah. Madam Chair, just a second question. So in package A, Bishop Street to University Avenue, 100 meters, Granville Street to University Avenue, 150 meters, Cole, Plain, and overlay. So that was in the tender. So the tender we put out, did we break it down there, or did you just give us a summary package for the meeting today?
Your worship, so we always break it down based on quantities, so like we need those measurements to figure out how much our quantities are going to be at the end of the day.
Okay.
Just in the report, we just put the streets to and from,
Right.
but we can definitely circulate the distances if that's something you would like to see.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Twill.
Yeah, Scott, I agree with the tender. You're going with the lowest bid. We try to strive for the lowest bid, and construction has come in with the lowest bid. And as you pointed out, they've done a lot of excellent work here in the city of Charlottetown. I look at the progress that's being made on Seaview Boulevard, major project in our city. And I think the conclusion of that construction, the residents and the community be well served when that project's completed. As you know, Scott, I made a request for five particular streets at this time to do another reevaluation. I can tell you that I was very pleased with the report that you and your staff put together. That was professionally done, objectively done, and I think I said to you yesterday, you and Riley, my years here at City Hall, it was probably one of the best reports I've ever written from staff here at City Hall. Having said that, there's still 4 streets that are outstanding. Is it possible that we can do another package up for this fall? Am I being too ambitious? We know the work needs to be done. I'm strongly in favor of resurfacing these streets. City's grown, and particularly our neighborhood streets, residents have waited for a long time. I like the work that we're doing, and as you pointed out, you can't look at the street in isolation. You have to look at the other infrastructure like sidewalks and other amenities, and I appreciate that and respect that fact. I'm just trying to push the envelope. Am I being overly ambitious if we can do another package for street resurfacing?
Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Councillor. So, good question. If we were to add more paving, what we're starting to get into right now is we're having to skip streets that may be, worse, one of the worst streets to be paved, but there's a lot of other infrastructure that needs to be repaired ahead of time. And so putting this list together, there are a few streets that may have been a little bit lower or higher, however you want to look at it, on that list, but we're going to postpone them until next year because we want to go in there and do it all right the first time. We want to repair the sidewalks. We want to fix, replace water valves, and we want to repair our catch basins. That's why this list is the way it is. Our team and Water Sewer have both looked at it, looked at all the infrastructure around it, and this is the list that we're able to produce to spend an additional $1 million without having to sacrifice that. Those upgrades and repairs to other infrastructure. I think in the past that wasn't done as well as it could have been, and we ended up in some situations where, and I can remember one, and I believe Richard can also remember one, where we paved and 2 hours later there was a sinkhole because there was a water leak. So we want to avoid that situation. So that's why if we add more to it, we're going to start even skipping more and getting to roads that we've already patched and did some long patching. So I wouldn't recommend it just because we're getting down to the wire and getting work done. And our plans for both our crews and water and sewer crews have already been set for the remainder of the fall. I think we're better off talking about it at budget time, what we want to earmark for the next year. Because if that is the case, if we want to, again, I think we have to have a bigger discussion. And what is that turnover rate? Once every 20 years, once every 25 years, we want to resurface a street. Once we settle on that number, then we can provide you folks with that rough estimate per annual expenditure we're going to need to spend in our capital budget to resurface that amount of streets. And that is the time to be talking about it, because again, once we get to the 11th hour like we are today, it gets challenging to ensure we're doing our due diligence and making sure we are doing the worst streets out there. We need the winter months to plan and schedule our work, order our materials to make sure that we do all our infrastructure upgrades ahead of paving. I would not recommend it, and I'm not even sure we could get another tender package together. It took
You'd
us
also
probably
have to
a
get more
couple
money
months.
approved, which would take a time to
Exactly.
process.
So we always put a completion date of October 31st. Beyond that, you just don't know what the weather's going to be like. We would not be able to meet any deadlines to complete more work other than this.
Being really proactive and good planning and coming to council at budget time, knowing that we won't have to hopefully return. Your second question, Councillor Twill?
Yeah, okay, I'll concur with you, Scott. I just hope at budget time, we're not gonna come in here and experience what we did at the last budget. I hope that we are gonna be proactive in that we have a lot of streets, and I'll emphasize neighborhood streets that need resurfacing, sidewalk, construction, all those other things that need to be done, water and sewer, upgrades as well. I just don't want to go through another one of those experiences where, to my mind, there just wasn't the attention, there wasn't the commitment, and there wasn't the importance, to my mind, attributed to just how important this work is. And, some of these neighborhood streets have gone a long, long time without having any resurfacing. So I don't want to get into the battle royal here come budget time. I really want to see where we can point to a plan of action, and we report back to our residents and say, you know what, we're finally getting some of these neighborhood streets done. The work that we've done thus far, Scott, has been done very well. Full credit to the department in terms of planning and implementing that plan. Its timeframes and timelines is where I'm coming from, because these are major, major constituency issues. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll do a good job, hopefully, at budget time to advocate on behalf of this committee.
Yep, Madam Chair, just a
exactly.
point of clarification. I think the budget process that we went through for 24-25, your department looked at the whole city, not just one part of this, two different parts. They looked at the whole city. They tried to accommodate all the wards in how you lay out your worst is first policy. And again, credit to the chair that we've moved to another supplementary tender to accommodate some of the wards that didn't feel that they got what they should have received. So I give a lot of, Madam Chair, a lot of respect to the department and the work they do and the feedback that they provide to us and how we work with our water and wastewater utility.
Yep, and we
So
heard that, Your
I think
Worship. Yep.
so questions called.
Question is called to move this on. Thank you. All in favor? Everybody's in favor. Wonderful. Thank you. The second report tonight is staff is recommending that as the conditions of the public request, accept the submission from Saunders Equipment through the canoe procurement program for the purchase of 2 municipal sidewalk machines with attachments in the amount of $414,490 plus applicable taxes. Scott, would you like to report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess there's a bit of an elephant in the room here where I know there'll be some questions about that we went through the canoe program or recommending to go through the canoe program. Again, as there was a lot of discussion around it the last time. We definitely had this discussion in-house amongst a number of us on moving forward or making a recommendation to move forward with this one in the absence of our procurement bylaw. So the reason why we're making a recommendation to move through this program is so Saunders Equipment is the only permitted reseller of this machinery in Atlantic Canada. So we've had that letter. We've gone through this prior process before. They are the only ones that sell this, the trackless sidewalk municipal street cleaner. So this is the sidewalk machines, are yellow ones that you see going around all winter long clearing our sidewalks. The reason why that these machines are recommended, this is other than 2 machines, this is the entirety of our fleet. And when you have them all the same one as your fleet, our mechanics are more acclimatized to them. They know how to fix them relatively quickly. We can stock just those parts and be able to repair them quicker. And then it goes with the driver comfort and being aware, or driver comfort and ability to run any driver can hop in any one of them and run them. So again, that's why after a bit of discussion, we brought this forward to make a recommendation to award this through the commute program, because it does guarantee us that it was vetted through an RFP process that we have access to, and a competitive price, because we don't know if we went through our own process if we'd get the same price or not. So that's why we are recommending to award this, so that we can get these ordered and get them here ahead of the snow this winter.
Thank you. Councillor Twill.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll reiterate my question that I did last month. A, does this bound the city of Charlottetown in any which way, shape, or form that we're now entrenched with this this particular formula, this purchasing power that's spearheaded by Western Canada, and a number of municipalities through the Canadian Federation of Municipalities are a lot of them are involved with this purchasing arrangement. But as you know, we try to strive for supporting our local businesses, and I don't want to, I don't want to keep them out of the loop and that they're not able to participate in the process. You referenced the procurement, procurement policy. I believe that we would not breach our current procurement policy in any which way, shape, or form. Procurement bylaw, well, that's a different animal, and I have to wait and see when that unfolds. But I guess what I don't want to, I understand the urgency. I just don't want to send the wrong signal out to our island businesses that this is going to be the new normal, Scott. We have a lot of local businesses here. They're paying big taxes, they're raising their families, they contribute to the community, they're entrenched in our community, and these are challenging times to say the least. So I have no problem supporting the recommendation. I just don't want to send the wrong signal out to the business community that would look to the city of Charlottetown and, we're paying taxes. Can we not get a fair shot at a proposal like this that you're promoting here today?
And I'm going to piggyback on that, but I think the answer to that is we're not locked in for sure. And I'm wondering, Scott, with this tender also, they went to a tender, we've had one bid. Is that right?
Yeah, so no.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when they put it to tender, though, other people have an opportunity to bid if they want to. And there was only one bid come in, is that what I'm reading here?
So I don't know how many put in bid for that, but Trackless brand is the successful winner of the RFP. And in Atlantic Canada, that is sold to us through Saunders Equipment. They are the sole business in Atlantic Canada that can sell these machineries to any municipality or organization. I cannot go to the Ontario dealer and buy from him. I cannot go to the BC dealer and buy from them. If we want to stick with that brand, with that machinery, which is the preferred and kind of industry standard in Canada, we have to buy from one supplier. So that is why we're right, because of that, and there's only one that can, and we have that documentation from Trackless saying that they are the only ones that can sell to us. That's why we said, this makes sense to go through this process because the RP has been done, the pricing has been locked in, and we can leverage that pricing. But completely understand, if we're going for, any other type of material that can be sourced locally, I agree, especially after the discussion that we had last time around the canoe program. I would 100% agree we need to publicly tender that locally through our system now until those further discussions happen on our future bylaw on procurement. But where this is there's only one provider, just for the just to save that time for our staff, both public works staff and finance staff, we felt it was a good decision to move forward with it for this process. But in the future, any other purchases, especially when you can, like I said, when you can get it locally, we definitely want to make sure we go through our own tendering process.
So we're locked into Saunders, and this was just the fast track way to get that to happen.
So that brand Trackless, yes, they are the only vendors that can sell
And
to.
based on your preference, because of the city, that part of our procurement policy that His Worship pointed out last time, in the best interest of the city, that's how you're coming at it in this perspective.
That's correct.
Any questions, Your Worship, I'm sure?
Yeah.
Can I get my questions answered?
What's your
Your
question?
question was that we're not locked in. He already said that.
No, that wasn't the whole thing.
What's your second part? I'm sure he needs a refresher. Councillor Twill, if you have a question that wasn't answered.
Okay, I'm going to go
Okay.
with my question. I think the important statement that Scott made, lack of a public procurement bylaw. He said that. Okay? We have a policy. So, he doesn't have the parameters. We went over this, we went through this discussion in Standing Committee on Protection and Emergency Services. You need parameters. It can't be a two-page document. So I can understand that, Scott, but Canoe, as I don't think a lot of people understand, Canoe is a portal for going out to tender, RFPs. They write up the documents, correct? They write up the tender documents, they follow up and so forth.
That's correct. Yep, they publicly tender,
Right.
they create the documents, and then review all the bids and score them, and then accept the winning bid.
And Madam Chair, we went through this on the enterprise fleet management in the last council. So Scott, just a few questions. In your capital budget, is it in your capital budget or is it in your operational budget for this expenditure? I'm just looking.
These expenditures come in our capital budget.
Okay, so could you direct me where it is? It is under fleet management? Public Works?
There's a Public Works fleet.
1,075,000?
Large account, yeah.
So we're taking, are we near the end of that account? I just wonder, this is a $238,000 purchase.
Yeah,
So-
and there is a transfer. So if you read in the document under the financials and the report, there is a $230,000 transfer that we would take from another account, and I don't have it.
What account?
Stormwater management.
Yes,
Through what?
From stormwater
Oh,
management.
so the stormwater management, which is at the pipe and catch basins, or it's the 700,000?
it's $700,000. That will be underspent this year.
Okay. So, Scott, I can't support this. I can't because I need to get back to the basics that, we need to do our own bidding. And remember, I did say that you can go on Merck's. Merck's, they go out, they don't take care of the tendering, but they do advertise that there is a city of Charlottetown or a community up east on Prince Edward Island looking for such and such. Give us, contact us. So I just can't, I find this is just a slippery slope, and it's starting here, it can go to other departments. So I'm, again, a supporter of buy local, support local, love local.
I also want to ask, what do they get? What do they get from, if this
Canoe?
procurement? Or what are we giving them for doing this work?
There'd have to be a fee.
So there's no fee for the city. That's all paid and compensated through the Federation of Municipalities of Prince Edward Island. So it's a service that they provide, that they have signed up all municipalities or communities in PEI for, and it's a free service that is to us to use.
And just one more clarification, and maybe this piggybacks with what Councillor Twill was asking earlier. Do all island bidders have equal opportunity to see this and bid on it?
I'm told yes. When Canoe goes out to public tender, it's a public tendering process. There are, and I believe in the supporting documentation, I think some of that does outline how they do that. But again, just to remind you, there is only one bidder that can provide this piece of equipment. Again, like if we were talking trucks, and especially after the last discussion on this process, this report would not be coming here. It would be a public tender from our own team to,
Still buy
that's
it.
how we would do it. But because it's just one provider of it, because of the type of equipment and it's a specialty type of equipment, we felt in the essence of time and resources limited resources that we have, this was the way to get this through for this year.
And as point of interest, when we're taking $240,000 from stormwater management, I would love to have a discussion at our next meeting around if we had $700,000 in excess in stormwater management, could we be using that money towards, whether it be back looking at some of those ditches and et cetera, whatever. Anyway,
So Madam Chair.
Second question.
Just on that, I'm going to ask a few questions under my second question.
Yeah.
So under that point, we need to also pass a resolution to transfer this money. That's my first question. So if the small fleet public works management, fleet management budget is at $1,075,000, it's obvious that you spent all that because you need more money. So if you're looking at critical pieces of equipment that the city of Charlottetown needs, I'd like to know what other critical pieces of equipment that we need going from, what is this, September 18th, the end of our fiscal year is March 31st. So you could probably, another 5 months, so we're probably going to need other critical pieces of equipment. If not, then I'd like to know. And another question is that this is actually through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. It's being pushed out into communities through their federations. Here in Prince Edward Island, it's the Federation of Prince Edward Island Municipalities. So I don't think Canoe is writing up these documents for nothing and doing this tendering for nothing. It may not be charged to us directly, but there has to be, you don't get something for nothing. Canoe is not in the business to service communities across the country because Canoe is a good corporate partner. They have to sustain themselves as a corporate entity. So could you just, I have the questions down if you want me to repeat them. So I got a few questions in that second question, Madam Chair.
So in terms of essential piece of equipment, so I went through this with our team recently and through a big spreadsheet of all the equipment that we had projected to need to buy this year. With this transfer of this funds, this would cover the remaining balance as long as everything else comes within the price that we have assumed it should come in at. This would be the only transfer that we need at this point in time that we can see to cover all the remaining purchases that we need. And I think where one of the pressure points came from this year was the whole vehicle, the police vehicle tendering process. I think that put us a bit over budget in terms of what we had anticipated for that purchase. So that's really where, not unexpected when you have those small changes. So that's where that change, or that's why that transfer of funds is required. It's just to make up that difference. And I believe Canoe, so again, I'm not privy to how the cost works. All we know is, as a member of the FMPEI, we have access to Canoe. So my guess is, or my assumption is, FMPEI has some type of agreement, and likely there's a payment that FMPEI pays for. that their board had voted on, so that their membership, all our communities here in PEI, have access to buying power. And that's the goal of these programs, is the buying power of teaming up with communities across Canada to buy. Essentially, they can only buy one, but the pricing is more equivalent to buying in bulk at the end of the day.
Again, by transfer, do we have to, I think this requires a transfer, that we need a vote on that transfer?
That comes at the resolution. So we've done this before. Right in the resolution, when our CEO reads it to you folks for vote, the first paragraph talks about that we accept this bid in the amount of whatever the $400 and some $1,000 from Saunders Equipment. The next line will say that there is also a budget transfer in the amount of the $240,000 to raise a purchase order, and then the final line is that the mayor and CEO are hereby authorized to execute and sign any agreements. So there will be, instead of a typical 2 sections, there's 3 sections. So that's where the resolution comes in. So it gets approved at the same time as the purchase of the equipment if council votes to approve it.
I think it's really, really imperative that we focus on this, put pressure on finance for this procurement bylaw. I think if His Worship's saying it's happening across committees, I think it would be I think it's causing an awful lot of discussion unnecessarily until we get this in place, and I think that would be imperative to put a little pressure on to make that. I know it was identified as one of our priorities in our bylaw list, so hopefully that'll come faster. Councillor Twill, you have your second question here.
Yeah. Okay, Scott, let's get down to brass tactics. Comparisons made here at Enterprise PEI. Is that a fair comparison in terms of this exercise here that we're going to embark upon again? I don't believe it's the same thing, but correct me if I'm wrong. Okay?
No.
This is not the same deal or the same arrangement as Enterprise PEI, correct?
No, that was the long-term agreement.
That was a 10-year agreement.
That was a
10-year agreement.
That's correct. This is a one-time purchase of 2.
One and done.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. The second question is, this does adhere to and falls under the parameters of our current procurement policy, correct?
So in talking with our chief financial officer, it does. Because it is a open and public process, and that is one of the key things that needs to happen to follow our procurement. It has to be open and accessible to any corporation or company. So yes, it does meets those parameters, and since it's available to us, then we can take advantage of it. Again, if it's in the best interest of the city and agreed to by council within through a vote of resolution.
Okay, here's my third question. If the procurement bylaw was in place, and I hope this is not hypothetical, but this preclude, if we had a bylaw in place for the procurement, would this, what we're doing here today, would that preclude us entering in this relationship with Canoe?
That's going to depend on what we set up in our procurement agreement.
I understand that, but, reference is made to the bylaw, policy bylaw. I think they're both interrelated. Same logic, same rationale, unless I'm missing something. I'm not an expert when it comes to procurement, but anyway, Scott, would that, with a bylaw in place, would that, or maybe your senior management can help us here, would that preclude the city of Charlottetown from entering into this business arrangement with Canoe?
I'm going to allow Eleanor or Richard, but I can tell you, no, it won't, because it will depend what we put in our bylaw that will lead us and direct us how we can do procurement.
I'd agree with that statement. I mean, ultimately, it's up to City Council, but the important thing to recognize is that this is a procurement policy put in place to aid municipalities across North America. There were 22 companies that responded to this request, and the request went out there trying to improve buying power for municipalities so that we are spending the least amount of money that we can when we make these purchases.
Thank you, Richard.
Point of clarification, Madam Chair.
But I don't think we should be talking about
No,
the
no, just
procurement bylaw
No,
right now,
no,
Your
no,
Worship.
No, it's just on Canoe, point of clarification. Canoe is a vehicle to do RFPs for a municipality. And enterprise fleet management, we gave them the authority to go out and do our purchasing through RFP or directly through the enterprise fleet management inventory. So what my purpose of making that comparison is that it's not something we're doing internally. An external body like Canoe, Enterprise Fleet Management, is conducting the business of the city. RFPs, I think we're having difficulty putting staff together to put those RFPs together. This is a vehicle. It was no different than when we were doing the fleet management tendering. It was easier just to get fleet management, enterprise fleet management to do that, so we didn't have to do anything with it. That's the comparison I'm making.
Okay, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about whether we're comfortable moving this tendered bid onto council. Do I have someone that will move this onto
I will
council?
move it based on, A, it doesn't bind the city of Charlottetown in any which way, shape, or form. We're not obligated to continue on with Canoe and this, the arrangement from the Canadian Federation of Municipalities. Despite all their advantages and attributes that was discussed here today. Secondly, it's time sensitive. According to our manager, we need to have that equipment here. And it doesn't infringe or impede on our local businesses competing for this type of machinery, because there's no one here in the province that can actually sell the equipment. Correct, Scott? Thank you. So I'll move it.
It's moved. Second to get it to the floor, Your Worship?
Yeah, I'm going to
Second
second
to
it.
get it to
Yeah,
the floor.
and again, there are dealers that sell this equipment. They don't produce them here, so that's a
Sell it
point of.
here.
Okay,
yeah,
but
No, they're dealers. Secondly, again, I'll second this resolution. I will not
Thank
be
you.
voting in favor of the resolution, but I will say, going back to the original statement that was made by our chief engineer, because of a lack of a procurement bylaw, we need something in place so that we can set up the parameters to go forward.
Exactly.
Question.
So, it's on the floor. Question called. All those to move this to council to accept this bid? In favor? Councillor Twill, against?
Against.
And I'm going to move it on to council to have further discussion, make the decision. So I'll
In favor
support.
or
In
against?
favor.
In favor?
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Good discussion again. My goodness, we need to get that procurement bylaw going. So I'm going to go back. Those
New
were our
business.
two reports. Yes, introduction of new business for our next meeting. Is there anything
Yeah,
that we'd
new
like
business.
added?
Just want to give our chief engineer, I spoke to you about this earlier, just to get the tender of the AVL, automated vehicle locator, just to see where it ends. The other issue is, we are doing the Farm Day in the city. I know that, I think it's with the province. I just like to know why, what are we changing in order to make it safe for users or pedestrians or anyone that are attending this, compared to our Queen Street Farmers Market that we had to move because of safety concerns. And the third, I don't know if it falls within your bailiwick, Madam Chair, but I'm just going to the manager. Marches and protests throughout the city. I don't know if we provide the barriers and so forth, but I think there's been some restrictions put on it. I don't know if you can answer that, but I will bring it up here to see if we can get a response. Thank
I
you.
think the purpose of this, is Your Worship, is that he'll come back with those 3 points at our next meeting, or he can follow up via
That's why I'm
an
putting
email.
notice of
Yep,
motion.
notice
Thank
of
you.
motion on those. Yep. Okay, and you have something you'd like added for our next meeting, Councillor Twill?
Yeah.
Okay.
As you know, I moved the resolution for our engineers and our senior administration of police and fire, public works, members of the senior management team to do an evaluation, do a synopsis of what the deficiencies are, safety deficiencies, what the issues are in terms of hosting the farmers market on Queen Street. Just, Scott, if you could please come back. I don't know if it's funneled through this department or not, or it's not okay. Well, have to try to find out who's actually spearheading that, that report that's supposed to come to council. I'm being asked by members of the business community, some of the participants down at the market on the waterfront, they want to know where the report is. So I'd like to get some clarity as to, when that report, I hope it's an in-depth report, it's a good report, so that when we submit that to the community, we'll have all of the I's dotted, the T's crossed, and people can actually say, okay, here's what we need to alleviate those concerns.
I think that's what we're hearing is that, Scott, at our next meeting, maybe a little update on Public Works, because that's what we are, the Public Works Committee, what the concerns were as far as running the market in the city, and his worship's looking for the plan for Farm Day in the city, and maybe we can look at the comparisons for those two. Thank you. Move to adjourn by his worship, seconded by Councillor Tweel. All those in favor of that, have a great evening, everyone.